Welcome back, everyone. You guys know how much I love a good deep dive into some fascinating history or mythology, and this one is a doozy. Thanks to our awesome listeners for sending this in, because today we are going to plunge headfirst into the epic saga of King Janamejaya and his, well, let's just say, intense snake sacrifice. Talk about a story that's got it all right. Grief, vengeance, a ritual that's off the charts, gods getting involved. And yeah, maybe even a lesson or two about what happens when you let anger run wild.
Oh, absolutely. This source material we're working with here, it throws you right into this world where the line between a king's power, the gods meddling in things, and like cosmic consequences, it's also blurred. And it's just packed with drama and these huge questions about justice and all getting even.
Right. It makes you think.
Why?
So let's rewind back to the beginning, okay? Ancient Hastinapura, we've got King Janamejaya, and he's just devastated by his father Parikshit's death. So what went down? What set this whole chain of events in motion?
Well, King Parikshit, he doesn't just die. He was murdered, basically. It was an act of revenge, really carefully planned out. And the one behind it, the Serpent King, Takshaka, he poisoned him. It wasn't some random thing either. The text makes it super clear. This was deliberate, intentional. Can you imagine how that must have felt for Janamejaya? You're the king, you're supposed to uphold justice, and your own father is taken out like that.
It's heavy stuff. I mean, knowing that your father was targeted like that, it's understandable that grief could twist into something much darker, like rage. And the source material, it says that Janamejaya's rage basically led him to make this enormous vow.
Oh, absolutely. He's completely consumed by grief, feels this immense injustice, and what does he vow? He's going to wipe out every single snake on earth, just like that. It really shows you how deep his pain went, and honestly, how far he thought his power as king could reach.
Okay, but how do you even begin to wipe out an entire species? And that's where this Sarpa Yagna, this snake sacrifice, comes in. Tell us about this ritual. It sounds absolutely wild.
Wild is an understatement. The Sarpa Yagna was meant to be a fire ritual, but like nothing anyone had ever seen.
Yeah.
Huge, a massive undertaking. It was Janamaya's idea, of course, but it was the kingdom's most powerful priests who had to actually do it. And the goal, it's simple but terrifying. Summon every snake in existence and burn them alive.
Every single snake. The scale of that, it's mind-blowing. What would something like that even look like? Paint us a picture.
Okay, imagine this gigantic pyre, flames shooting up to the sky, and you've got these priests, right? They're chanting these ancient, super powerful mantras. Back then, people believed these mantras could actually shape reality. And these chants, they were like a magnet, an irresistible pull, reaching across the land, dragging snakes from everywhere towards the fire.
Ugh, it's a horrifying image. All these creatures forced towards their deaths. The source mentions like this awful smell and the ground shaking. It's almost surreal, but then it brings it back down to earth with those details.
It does. It was a massacre, plain and simple. A brutal reminder of just how destructive Janamajaya's need for revenge was. But there's a twist. You see, in all this chaos, the one snake he wanted most, Takshaka, well, he was nowhere to be found.
Of course. The one snake he's after manages to escape. So, what happens next? Takshaka's not just going to sit around and wait, is he?
Nope, not Takshaka. He knew how dangerous things were, so he hightailed it out of there. He went to Swarga, the realm of the gods, and he begs Indra, the king of the gods, for protection. And get this, Indra actually agrees. He even lets Takshaka sit on his throne. You can only imagine how that went over with Janamejaya.
A god protecting the very being he wants dead. That had to pour gasoline on the fire, right?
So how did Janamejaya take this divine intervention? You'd think he'd back down. But no. Janamejaya just digs in deeper. It's like his fury just keeps growing. The text emphasizes this absolute determination. He finds out that Takshaka escaped, and Indra's protecting him, and he just says flat out, if Indra shields him, let the god burn too. That's a whole other level of rage, right? Like, he's not even afraid of the gods anymore.
Let the god burn too! Wow, that's some serious commitment to vengeance. So, did the priests actually go after Indra? How could they even think about doing that to a god?
Okay, so here's where the belief in the power of these rituals and the righteous anger behind them comes into play. The priests, they were loyal to their king, right? Plus, they're in the middle of this huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
So they ramp up their chants, make them even more powerful. The source makes it sound like these mantras were so strong they could actually reach the heavens. And now they're aimed at both Takshaka and Indra himself. Imagine that. A human king's rage so strong, it's pulling a god down to earth to be burned.
And it worked. The king of the gods, was he actually being dragged towards the fire? That's incredible.
The text describes this really dramatic scene, like something out of a movie. Indra and Takshaka are falling from the sky, heading straight for the flames. all because of one man's will and these ancient rituals. It's a crazy powerful image, right? It shows you how much weight those rituals had back then and how strong Janamajaya's need for revenge was.
Just when it seems like everything's about to go completely off the rails, a new character steps in. Brihaspati. Who is he, and what makes him get involved in this whole mess?
Brihaspati is a big deal in the Hindu pantheon. He's the guru, the teacher of the devas, the gods. So when he shows up at the sacrifice, it's a huge turning point. It's like a voice of reason suddenly appearing in this whirlwind of vengeance.
Okay, so what does Brihaspati say to Janamejaya that finally gets him to stop this, well, god-burning ritual?
He makes a few really important points. First, he tells Janamejaya that trying to kill Takshaka is pointless. Takshaka drank the nectar of immortality, remember? The fire can't hurt him. Then he brings up the idea of karma. He's saying King Parikshit's death was a result of his own past actions, and Janamejaya, well, he's subject to the laws of karma too. Then he hits him with the big one. All this killing, it's actually dishonoring his father's memory.
That's a lot to take in, especially that last part, that he's disrespecting his own father. So how does Janamejaya react? Does he immediately see things differently?
The source suggests that Brihaspati's words really hit home. It's like a light bulb goes off in Janamejaya's head. He realizes that he's been so focused on revenge, he's lost sight of everything else. It dawns on him that his father's death, even though it was unjust, it doesn't justify all this destruction and violence.
So what does he do? Does he stop the ritual right away?
He does. In this powerful moment of self-control, he holds up his hand and silences the priests. The flames start to die down. And just like that, Indra and Takshaka, they disappear back to the heavens. It's a dramatic shift, and it all comes from Janamejaya choosing wisdom over vengeance.
The source makes a point of saying that this story in the Mahabharata isn't really about triumphing through revenge. It's more about finding wisdom. So what's the main takeaway here? What are we supposed to learn from all this drama?
I think this story asks us to think about the real cost of being consumed by rage. Those snakes, as the source points out, they weren't just Takshaka's family. They were part of this intricate web of life. Janamejaya almost destroyed that entire ecosystem, and his actions even affected the gods. But when he let go of his anger, it showed real strength. It's about understanding and accepting karma instead of trying to fight it with violence.
It's all ancient history, but the source argues that it's still relevant today. What does this story from so long ago have to say to us now?
It's really smart how the source connects Janamajaya's vendetta to the cycles of revenge we see happening all around us, like political conflicts, personal feuds, cultural clashes. It's a reminder that uncontrolled anger can have these huge ripple effects. It doesn't just destroy the people we're angry at, it also eats away at our own humanity.
And the source doesn't let us off easy either. It ends with some pretty thought-provoking questions, right?
Totally. It asks us to really examine ourselves. When we're angry, when we want revenge, are we really honoring someone or something? Or are we just feeding a fire that could burn everything down? And it makes us wonder if real strength sometimes means letting go, which is hard, but it can be so much more powerful. It's a timeless dilemma that's still relevant today.
So we've gone deep into this incredible story of Janamejaya and the snake sacrifice. What are the key things you should take away from it?
The story shows, in a really dramatic way, just how destructive vengeance can be if you let it control you. It highlights the importance of wisdom and understanding when we're dealing with pain and the desire to get even. And it reminds us of this ancient idea of karma. Our actions have consequences, and those consequences can reach far beyond what we intended.
It's amazing how this ancient story still resonates with us today. It makes you think about those times when you felt consumed by anger and about all the different choices you have. Maybe true strength, as the source suggests, isn't always about fighting back.
Exactly. It makes you rethink what justice and closure really mean. Sometimes true resolution doesn't come from inflicting pain. Sometimes it comes from choosing wisdom over vengeance. That's a powerful idea, and it's really hard to do. It's about letting go of anger and letting understanding guide your actions. So I want you to think about a time when you really wanted revenge. What would have happened if you'd made a different choice? How does this ancient story change the way you think about justice and finding peace after something bad happens?